Memorable moments from the Oscars. Hi, how are you? So today is March 15th, 2026. Tonight is the Oscars, the Academy Awards. And my neighbor's mowing his lawn next door, so I'll try to do this over the noise. This is not the most professional operation in the world. So anyway, the Oscars. I have lots of thoughts about the Oscars. I used to be really big into the Oscars, and this year I have no idea what movies are nominated or anybody, and I really haven't paid attention to the Oscars for the last couple of years. But there was a time from 1998 to 2012 where I recorded on VHS cassette every single Oscars broadcast during that time, except I missed 2004. So between 1989 and 2012, I have every Oscars broadcast on tape. And I have periodically rewatched them and seen my favorite moments, or at least memorable moments, that I would like to talk to you about today and mention, kind of recap, because if you haven't seen every single Oscars, which of course no one has. I mean, the Oscars have been going on since, how long have it been? Since 1929. 97 years the Academy Awards has been going on, and they're going to have their 100th Oscar ceremony in 2028. So this is a long time. I don't remember ever watching any of the Oscars that Johnny Carson hosted. I remember Billy Crystal hosting the Oscars a lot. And, there's been a lot of other people, David Letterman and all kinds of people. And, but there was that time where I just loved the Oscars, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it, because it's all these famous people that we constantly hear about, and they're all in one place at one time, and they come out and they joke, and it's kind of absurd and silly, and they dress up in these fancy outfits, and they get golden statues for pretending to be people that they're not, and it's all rather silly and funny, but also sometimes it's really profound, because sometimes they have something important to say, but mostly it's about, we're watching to see what goes wrong, because it's live. And what, is someone going to run on stage without wearing clothes? That happened. Is someone going to walk up from the audience and slap the host? Because that happened. Are they going to forget and announce the wrong name? Because that has happened. And so it's a crazy circus of fun and drama and just ridiculousness that we want to watch so we can talk about it with our friends the next day. And so anyway, these are some of the memorable moments from the Oscars that I've noticed that are probably available on YouTube clips that you could watch. Certainly this one. So I have these categories. First one is presentations and performances. Chuck Workman, when Billy Crystal was hosting, Chuck Workman would make these movie medleys to start the Oscar ceremonies. It'd be like, celebrating 100 years of film, and it would be just a montage. There must be like 1,000 movie clips in this montage, and it was really profound and moving and funny and really great movie montage by Chuck Workman. And I highly recommend you watch those on YouTube, because they're really amazing. Stomp did a performance. Oh, I should have written down the dates. But Stomp did a really cool performance one year. I think it was maybe 2002 or something like that, where they demonstrated, the Foley work of slammings of doors and the stomping of feet and stuff like that. They did a really cool performance. Cirque du Soleil did a performance that was pretty amazing. Madonna. Oh, I should have written down the dates. Gosh darn it. Anyway, Madonna did a song called I Always Get My Man from Dick Tracy. And, Madonna used to be the Taylor Swift of her time. And if you watch that performance of her singing at the Oscars, I Always Get My Man, you'll see just how talented and professional she was. And at the end of the song, there was a thing where she holds for applause, and then her earring falls down, and she takes the earring and just tosses it in the orchestra pit, and she's wearing this feather boa. Anyway, it's a really cool performance. Robin Williams singing with the cast of South Park, Blame Canada, is an amazing performance. Animals. Someone had the bright idea of bringing a horse on stage. And having Val Kilmer come out with it. So I think it was something to do with a tribute to Roy Rogers and Trigger or something like that. And, he, Val Kilmer comes out in a cowboy hat and he walks out with this horse. And they brought a horse out on stage. First of all, how did they get a horse backstage? And how did they get the horse to not freak out while backstage? And then when he brings it on stage, the horse is like, what is this? What's going on? I don't understand. And the horse starts circling around the stage. Around Val is trying to like, okay, I'm going with it. And he makes a joke. And then he gets that horse off the stage as soon as he possibly can. But don't bring a horse on stage at the Academy Awards. Are you out of your mind? And there was this other time where they brought a dog on stage. David Letterman was hosting. And he used to do on his 12:30 late night show, he used to do this thing called Stupid Pet Tricks. And so he brought his hijinks to the Academy Awards, and he brought out this dog, and he had Tom Hanks come out from the audience and help him unroll this carpet onto the stage. And they bring out this dog named Sadie, and Sadie starts twirling around, and it's Sadie the spinning dog who spins when you applaud. And so the audience applauds, and the dog just spins around in a circle, and that's the whole bit. Anyway, so those are the two times that I've seen that they brought animals on stage, and sometimes it goes good, and sometimes it did not go so good. So, actors' reactions and speeches. Okay, I got a bunch. Roberto Bernini won for Best Actor for Life is Beautiful, I think, and he won the Academy Award. His name is announced, and he immediately jumps up on the seats and stands up on the seats in front of everyone, and he walks forward on a couple of the seats, and he almost kicks Steven Spielberg in the head. And Steven Spielberg is like holding him up, holding his hands, and then Bernini he gets down on the carpet, and he runs up on stage, and he literally hops up the steps, and gives this wonderful acceptance speech. But as far as hearing your name called, and that's the reaction. That's probably one of the best reactions I've ever seen. Another reaction of your name not being called is Samuel L. Jackson was nominated for Pulp Fiction, I think. This was in '92. And Martin Landau, I think, won the Oscar instead when all the nominees were announced, and they announced Martin Landau. And you can see, because they do a camera on all of the actors who were nominated, and Samuel L. Jackson goes, when he hears his name not announced. And that's the only time I've ever seen an actor, because everyone applauds politely even if they don't win. But Samuel L. Jackson was the first actor I've seen who was legitimately real, and he said the S word. I did not get nominated. And so, man, I would have loved to have seen Samuel L. Jackson get nominated for his role in Pulp Fiction. I mean, what an amazing performance. Jack Palance. He won, Jack Palance. He was in Batman 1989. He used to do this TV show called Ripley's Believe It or Not. But he's been in a whole bunch of movies. I think he was in Shane, and he had a very long career. And he was in City Slickers, and he won Best Supporting Actor. And he comes up on stage, and the first thing he says is, because Billy Crystal was hosting, and he says, "Billy Crystal, I crap bigger than him." That's the first thing he says when he gets up to the microphone. And then he says, when you get to be my age, people wonder whether you can still do the job. And then he gets down on the floor and he starts doing push-ups, and he does a one-armed push-up. And he's like, yeah, I can still act. I'm still in the business. I'm still capable. And then for the rest of the night, Billy Crystal keeps making jokes that how virile and strong Jack Palance is. Jack Palance helped build all these sets. And then the following year, Billy Crystal hosts again, and he starts the ceremony with Jack Palance with a rope in his mouth and like a harness, and he drags out this huge Oscar trophy onto the stage. And Billy Crystal is riding on top of the the Oscar statue behind him, and he does a one-armed push-up, and then he walks off stage. So it was just that great joke, and then or that great push-up thing, and then just making fun of it. For, even a year later. Tom Hanks won 2 years in a row. He won for Philadelphia, and then a year later he wins for Forrest Gump. And Tom Hanks, I guess, was not the only person to win an Oscar back-to-back in 2 years. Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, Luis Rayner, and Jason Robards also won 2 years in a row an Oscar. And I remember Tom Hanks winning for Philadelphia because he outed his high school teacher. He says they were one of the, my high school teacher and this other person were two of the greatest gay men I've ever known, and who taught me whatever. And he thanked them. And then a year later, I think they made a movie in Hollywood starring Kevin Kline called In and Out, where it makes fun of the fact that, maybe his teacher hadn't come out yet. And it was that Oscar speech that told everybody. And anyway, there's that Kevin Kline movie if you want to see that. Robin Williams winning Best Supporting Actor for Good Will Hunting was an amazing speech. Cuba Gooding Jr. giving an amazing speech for Best Supporting Actor for Jerry Maguire. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon winning Best Screenplay. They did an amazing speech. James Cameron winning Best Director for Titanic and yelling, "I'm king of the world!" So we get moments like that. Halle Berry gave it a very emotional, moving speech when she won her Oscar. I think she was the first woman of color to win Best Actress, and that was an amazing moment. Michelle Yeoh became the first Asian woman to win Best Actress. Chloe Zhao was the first Asian woman to win an Oscar for Best Director, and the second woman to win Best Director Oscar. And Catherine Bigelow was the first woman to win Best Actor or Best Director for The Hurt Locker. Joe Pesci gave one of the shortest speeches. He came up on set and says, "It's my privilege, thank you," and then walked off. So, the orchestra didn't have to wait for him. To go to ramble. The person who did ramble was Dustin Hoffman when he won for Rain Man in 1989. He got up on stage and some actors, I suppose it's a very intense moment. You don't know what to say, but some actors, you see them when they don't have a script, they just ramble. And they don't know what to say. And that's one of the moments where it's like, what is Dustin Hoffman saying? It was a very bizarre moment when he won. Sally Field said, "You like me, you really like me." Patricia Arquette, I remember, gave a very moving speech, and Frances McDormand, I think, had all the women nominees stand up in the audience. That was a powerful moment. Joan Crawford in 1946 was having pneumonia, so she accepted her Oscar award from her bed in 1946. Heath Ledger won Best Supporting Actor for The Dark Knight in 2009, and he got that Oscar posthumously. And so did Peter Finch for The Network. Marissa Tomei, everyone was surprised when she won because, I don't know, she was a newcomer at the time, and all these, veteran actresses were nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and she won, and everybody thought that Jack Palance read the card wrong, but she really did win, and I think she deserved it for My Cousin Vinny. Amazing things that happened. Roberto Benigni standing on the chairs. The Ellen DeGeneres selfie picture. So Ellen DeGeneres, halfway through the ceremony, she goes and she takes a selfie, and all these actors flood into the frame, and you can see it online. It's the most famous selfie at the Oscars ever taken. And I remember this one year, I can't remember who hosted, but they opened the side doors, and there was this tour group that was going through Hollywood, just doing a normal, Hollywood Walk of Fame walk tour, and they let these people into the Oscars, and they didn't know that they were being let into the Oscars. The actors, I remember Ryan Gosling standing up and greeting the tourists as they came in. I can't remember who hosted that, but that was a bizarre moment. Charlie Chaplin in 1972, he got a standing ovation. He got an honorary Oscar, and he got one of the longest standing ovations in Oscar history. 12 minutes. People applauded for Charlie Chaplin. And which reminds me of the time that Nicole Kidman gave that really weird clap. And everybody went on and on about what is she doing? And Nicole Kidman later said that she was wearing these very expensive diamond rings and she didn't want to damage them, so she was applauding with her palms instead of her fingers. And so that you can see Nicole Kidman applauding like this. It was, you never know what weird stuff is going to happen at the Oscars. I think that's what we're fascinated by and why we watch. Because what crazy stuff are they going to do? What's unprepared stuff that you could never predict is going to happen? And that's one of the reasons I love it. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas presented an honorary Oscar to Akira Kurosawa. Steve Martin was hosting one time, and he said, the FBI has announced that there is a suspect in the plot to kidnap Russell Crowe, and all I have to say is, Tom Hanks, you should be ashamed of yourself. And Tom Hanks looks at the camera and goes, he mouths sorry. Because it was an actual thing. I don't remember what year this was, but there was an actual thing. There was rumors that somebody was going to try to kidnap Russell Crowe. The Kodak Theater became the home of the Oscars in the early 2000s. It used to be the Shrine Auditorium and the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, but I remember the Kodak Theater becoming a thing. And I remember I took a trip to Los Angeles in 2003 and taking some pictures because the Kodak Theater was this brand new thing, and being able to walk around it. It was just an amazing building. Some serious memorable moments. In 2002, so after 9/11 tragedy happened, there was a moment of silence during the Oscars for all the people who died as a result of that tragedy. And in 1996, Christopher Reeves appeared on stage in his wheelchair after his horse riding accident. So you get very profound moments also during the Oscars. Things that went wrong and crazy surprises. In 1999, Anne Hesh was presenting the Science Awards, and her microphone malfunctioned. It was like talking like that, but that's the only time I've ever seen the microphone malfunction. In all the other times, all the other Oscars, the microphones work. So that's the thing about the Oscars that is actually the most amazing thing, is how they pull it off. I'm sure they plan for months in advance. For anything that could possibly go wrong, and they prepare for all this. I'm sure security is really intense, but they run it so well. It's just, here's the orchestra plays, next presenter comes out, orchestra plays, next presenter comes out, and the host comes out, and it's just run so well. It's very organized, and I'm always amazed by that, of how much doesn't go wrong at the Oscars is what is amazing to me. There was a time when Chris Rock was hosting, and there was this guy dressed in a tuxedo who was working backstage, and he runs out right when they come back from the commercial break, and the guy hands a microphone to Chris Rock, because I guess his shirt mic is off, and so they run out. He taps Chris Rock on the shoulder to hand a microphone. Chris Rock takes the microphone and says, "Oh, I guess I'm using this." And instead of the guy, just calmly walking backstage, the guy races backstage, hides behind the curtain like this. And it's just, okay, dude, calm down, All you have to do is walk out on stage and hand Chris Rock the microphone. That's all. But no, he races out, he hands Chris Rock the microphone, and he runs back and he hides behind the curtain. Calm down. I know it's live, but get a grip. Jennifer Lawrence tripped on her dress walking up the steps to receive her Oscar. And I remember Hugh Jackman getting up out of his seat about to help her, but then she gets up on her own. Cher tripped over her dress while walking to the microphone. Nicole Kidman, weird applause. It was a big surprise when Crash won for Best Picture, and everybody thought that Brokeback Mountain was going to win in 2006. Elia Kazan won a Lifetime Achievement Award, and it was a very intense moment because half of the audience stood up for him and half of the audience remained sitting and not applauding for him. And it's because I don't want to get into why or even speculate why, but you can look it up. Some people just had problems with Elia Kazan winning that award. 2005. Oh, okay, the Chris Rock microphone. I don't remember what year it was, but Will Smith walked up on stage and slapped Chris Rock. And, you know, we all remember that. And that is probably the most bizarre thing that has happened at the Oscars. I couldn't believe when I heard, because I hadn't watched the Oscars that night, but it was all over the news, and so I had to watch it on YouTube. It was like, that happened? Are you kidding me? And then he wins Best Actor later in the show. And it's like, what happened? I still can't believe that happened. That was a wild moment. And the next, biggest thing is Envelope Gate, where Warren Beatty, I think it was Warren Beatty and, I can't remember her name. Oh, I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name. I'll remember it in a minute. I'll put it up in the text. They come out and they read the card and they read it wrong. They said La La Land. And La La Land didn't win. It was Moonlight. And it was this big kerfuffle up on the stage, and Jimmy Kimmel, I think, was hosting, and he had to come up and fix the situation. And then I think someone from the Moonlight production said, no, we didn't win. It's Moonlight. Moonlight won, and they showed the card. But it was this crazy moment of confusion, and I don't think that has ever happened, that they've read the card wrong. And that's always one of the big fears is the announcer going to say the card wrong? And that happened. It happened with Best Picture. It was such an amazing moment. It's like, this is happening. It's like watching a train wreck in real time. And it happened. I mean, what a finale. So yeah. Envelope Gate. I remember that. There was a streaker who ran on stage without any clothes, and David Niven was on stage, and you just see the guy run out, and then he runs off stage, and David Niven is like, okay, and then he makes a joke about people coming on stage and showing their shortcomings, and then in 2001, I remember there was this Courtney Love. There was an after Oscars party, and one of the reporters asked Courtney Love, what happens at these Oscar parties? No one will tell us. And Courtney Love says, we all get drunk and screw each other. And I love it when people just say outrageous things. Thoth won Best Short Documentary. Thoth was someone I talked about when I showed my pictures of San Francisco's of celebrities that I've seen in real life. Thoth was a very talented violinist who in San Francisco in the 90s, in 97 I saw him. He would go around San Francisco playing violin, and then he moved to New York and he would play violin in New York. He's a really interesting person. And someone made a documentary about him. So I'm watching the Oscars. All of a sudden, Thoth is on stage. And I'm like, what? That's amazing. And so, anyway, there was that. Marlon Brando in 1973 refused his Best Actor Oscar for The Godfather. And he sent a representative named Sacheen Littlefeather, I think was her name, to decline the Oscar because of mistreatment or bad portrayals of Native Americans in film and television. And so everyone was surprised by that. I think, who was giving the Oscar out at that time? I think it was Roger Moore. Hosts, Johnny Carson, Whoopi Goldberg, Steve Martin, David Letterman, Billy Crystal did a lot of them. Jon Stewart, Hugh Jackman, Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Kimmel, Neil Patrick Harris all gave, and Johnny Carson was the one I think who did it the most. I don't know if Dean Martin or back in the old days. I've never watched any of the old Oscars. I'd love to go back and watch those. Are they available? Where do you find them? I don't know. Anne Hathaway and James Franco hosted once. Rob Lowe, the Snow White introduction, is this big famous thing that I've actually never watched, but I guess if you could watch but everyone says it's the most terrible opening of the Oscars ever. I've never watched it, but I should go watch it. The Rob Lowe Snow White opening of the Oscars is infamous for being just like this terrible production. In 2019, 2020, and 2001, I guess there was no host for the Oscars because of COVID or other reasons. and they just didn't have a host, or it was a bunch of people hosting. And those are all the memorable events. I'm sure there's tons more, but those are the ones that have stuck out in my mind after watching the Oscars from 1989 to 2012 and beyond. Those are the memorable moments that have stuck out in my mind. My final thoughts, sometimes it's bland and superficial. Sometimes it's really uncomfortable watching Oscars or actors present or do a speech and try to do something humorous, and it's really not humorous, and it's awkward, and their speeches are sometimes awkward, but sometimes it's really profound, and sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's moving, and sometimes it just feels like an event, and sometimes it's shocking, and it's just, you never know what you're going to get, as Forrest Gump would say. And I think that's one of the reasons we keep watching the Oscars. Going back and rewatching some of these Oscar moments, they look so young. I mean, Russell Crowe looks very different, 20 years ago as opposed to what he looks like now. And it's just really funny how people change. Kate Winslet said she keeps her Oscar in her bathroom so people can stand in front of the mirror and pretend to do their Oscar speech. And I want to leave you with this. Matt Damon once said, when he won his Oscar, he said he went home that evening after the Oscar parties, and it's like 2 a.m. and he's still too excited to fall asleep. And he's sitting in his chair and he's looking at the Oscar sitting on the table. And he has this thought that he has said in several interviews, that I'm really glad I didn't screw anybody over to get this award. And because it wouldn't have been worth it. And he said that, I can't imagine chasing this statue and trying to get it for 80 years. And at age 80, you finally get it and you realize it's just a statue and it wasn't the whole thing, that your life and your experiences and your relationships are what matter, not this statue. The statue's great, it's recognition, it's appreciation, but he said that, he's glad that he learned that at age 27 rather than learning that at 80. And that has stuck with me, because, I'm not famous. I'm not going to win an Oscar. I'm nowhere near his level, of course. But after posting videos on Instagram and YouTube and getting really nice comments from you that mean a lot to me, and I appreciate it. And man, it's so nice to put your work out into the world, put yourself out into the world. And people say nice things, and that means so much to me. And I try to reply to as many kind comments as I can. And amazingly, 99% of the comments that I get are kind, and that means so much to me. Thank you. And at the same time is, after I reply and I turn off my phone, I'm still left with my life. I'm still left with the good things I'm going through and the bad things I'm going through, and my obsessive compulsive disorders of having to check the stove 10 times after I turn it off. That doesn't, that appreciation and that fame, those kind comments from people doesn't solve the issues in my life. And Conan O'Brien has said on his podcast a few times that, he's noticed that actors and comedians have said to him, this fame thing did not fill the void in my life. And so anybody chasing after that Oscar to fulfill that thing, that it's going to change your life, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does for a little bit. I know Ben Kingsley won an Oscar and someone said to him, fame is fleeting. And that stuck with him. So the Oscars is just this thing. It's all these things wrapped up every year, and the before and the after, and it's a big thing, and yet it's not a big thing, and it's all of these things all at once. And that's why I enjoy it, and I think that's why we keep watching it. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about the Oscars, and I really look forward to your comments, and hopefully they'll be kind. And even though they may not fulfill everything in my life, I appreciate your kind comments all the same. So anyway, I hope I made some sense, and I hope this was enjoyable, because all those, I don't know all of those, but many of those clips are available on YouTube, especially the Chuck Work. I'm sorry about that. The memory card on my camera filled up and I wasn't able to finish what I was saying. So I had to put a new memory card in. Anyway, Chuck Workman, those movie medley montages made by Chuck Workman are on YouTube, and they're really amazing to watch. And maybe some of their other clips from Oscars you want to watch. Anyway, thank you for watching, and this is enjoyable to just go down memory lane of the Oscars. And I would love to know your comments and thoughts about the Oscars. And anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. And we'll talk about something fun. All right, bye.